This episode is brought to you by Jennifer Lee. Stephen!
Andrew!
Fancy spending a quiet night inside number 9?
Always!
I feel like you were slightly uncommitted to the Andrew.
It felt a little bit like I was overcompensating.
It felt like, when little boys do commentary on football and put on a voice, like, and they're going through, and he's going down the wing, and he puts in a great cross, and it's a goal! And they do, like, shouting, but also whispering, sort of whisper shouts. Do you know that? Or is that?
I do know that. I didn't recognise that in myself.
No, maybe
but I'll take your word for it.
Maybe I misheard it. Yeah. One that stuck in my mind from many years ago was there was like a competition for kids to win like an experience commentating with John Motson, and one of the entries was like, and he scores a goal. Oh, that was absolutely subliminal. It was like,
could barely tell it happened.
I'm not sure.
Something's just. I think someone's just scored a goal. Couldn't really tell.
Well, the ball's in the net, but nobody really saw how it ended up there. Yeah. Anyway,
that was a tangent.
I feel that might be a sort of setting the tone for this episode, because it's going to be a fairly chilled out one. We are going to talk about the documentary because, think it's probably an appropriate thing to look at, having been broadcast over Christmas. It's appropriate. Yeah. This podcast is about Inside Number 9, and that was about Inside Number 9. And we're between series in terms of flicking through the scripts, so why not?
Just for the listeners, Andy doesn't currently have a microphone stand, and his casual pose really is a casual pose. He's just sort of leaning forward as though he's going to accost you in the street with his microphone.
I am in kind of interview pose.
I feel interviewed.
Yeah, good. And the other thing we want to do is pay tribute to David Lynch, who very, very sadly died a few days ago. And I think we've both been like, ouch, it's a bit of a gut punch, really gutted about it. So we're going to talk about some of our memories of engaging with David Lynch's work, which...
Oh, Lynchian Lynch memories.
Lynchian Lynch memories. And we have a few. And I know that, Reese talks about David Lynch as quite a big influence on him. So, again, it's appropriate.
Well justified. You've justified both of our talking points. Well done.
Cool. Good. Yeah. So I don't know how we want to do the documentary other than... I've sort of made a list of the things that they address on it, stuff that happens, but let's start with like overall feelings about it.
I thought I liked the beginning bit with the filming each other, and it kind of suggested that it was going to be a lot of that, and then like last gasp, that's not what happened at all.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're going to spend the whole time kind of doing shots of each other and talking. Yeah, that sounds like a really great... No. It might come back again later, but no, it's not going to be that at all.
Yeah. It's the kind of thing I imagine they set out with the best of intentions to do it loads and loads. And then, actually doing the work gets in the way, and you think, oh, we haven't done the documentary thing. But yeah, it's good. That's a good last gasp kind of parallel.
Yeah.
I like that.
Oh, I know how this is going to go. No, you don't.
Yeah. And even for those thinking, oh, there's going to be a twisty type thing in this, like it could have been setting up a thread along the way that is going to reveal something. But no.
No, nothing at all. It was just, I think it was, you said they kind of forgot about it, which is almost fair enough when you consider this was kind of them trying to document the making of the last series and wanting to really enjoy it. Because Reese mentions that it kind of, everyone watching this probably thinks it's a lot of fun making it, but for them it's kind of, it got to the point where it was just going to work. And he joked about them not really wanting parts on screen anymore because it's just hassle.
Yeah.
And he's quite, he's it's funny, he says they talk about how they've always tried to keep an air of mystery about themselves. I think that's true. You don't hear a lot from them, and even Reese more so, I think. Even his sort of social media stuff is like the horror advent calendar stuff. It's all very like his stuff that I find quite fun. Here's a little window into stuff I enjoy, but not really him. And you kind of get all these bits of him, of that grumpiness on the train up to Manchester. I just don't even film me. No. And he wants no part of this filming stuff at all.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's interesting to see him like going back over things and talking about how him and Steve met. And he's clearly very, very, very fond of Steve.
Yeah, I think, and I think the fondness, obviously the fondness for Steve comes through, and also the tongue-in-cheek nature of that part that he plays, I think, on the train, as you mentioned, and that grumpiness is, there's a realness to that, but it is also played for laughs, I think, and obviously there's the thread through the thing of how does Reese feel, and you know, right at the end, sort of opens up that, is it an envelope he opens up and he's about to read about how he tell people about how he feels about what's going on, and then it cuts.
Do you think he kind of, to some extent, lives publicly in character all the time?
I think there's an element of that, yeah.
Because I guess we saw them speak at Barbican for the book launch
for
of
the Insider's Guide.
Guide, and he does kind of flick between those things of that kind of that enthusiasm and real care, and then flipping back to no, I'm not interested in any of this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't want to. Yeah, because they're talking about later on, Steve sees it as a writing project, and Reese is like, I like doing the acting, and now I hate doing the acting as well.
Yeah.
So the only thing I enjoy is the post-production, and even that's like, oh.
But he gets to go and be on the stage again.
Yeah,
which is what he really enjoys. And he says that his best memories of the League, he thinks the League of Gentlemen were at their best when they were doing the live shows, which is mad, really, because the live shows are dwarfed by. Because I started watching series 2 of that again last night, and partly because of what they said about in the documentary about them writing as a pair. And I hadn't really thought of that before, that their characters kind of, you've got Tubbs and Edward, and they're a pair, and they do all that stuff together, and actually those guys were operating in little silos and doing a bit of crossover stuff here now and again, but there were definite sort of pairings. Yeah,
and I guess because they were mates, they lived together, and you know that was naturally there as well, wasn't it? Because I can imagine a lot of living in a flat, bouncing stuff off each other, coming up with those characters in different ways, and actually just spending almost all your life riffing on things, and then that naturally then becomes what you write from. And
it explains why they haven't put it down. It explains why they live as a constant creative pair, not just doing the same stuff forever, but just, okay, time for a new project. Right, that one's run its course. New project. So they first made friends when Reese was ill, wasn't he? Or was it Steve was ill? Steve was ill?
I I think it was
Steve
Steve
was
in
ill.
hospital, wasn't it?
Yes. And that's when they kind of started their friendship, and from there, because Reese wasn't even going to go to that school, was he? That was kind of like a bit of a curveball that he ended up there.
Yeah. Yeah, because he was he more art?
Yes.
He wanted to be an artist, and then, ended up acting. I love that when they're talking about Taming of the Shrew. Steve's character in that, the Buckaroo.
Yeah.
Just, what's funny? I'll just put all of these different props on you, and and those photos are great because it's like, tiny Steve.
And the fact they handed over those photos to the art department for Bernie Clifton.
Yeah.
And they were, just put the punk stuff on Steve and make him look like a punk ventriloquist doll.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I thought the documentary as a whole worked really well as an advert for Stage Fright, because I've spoken to several people who hadn't realised that it was on to start with, and then having seen the documentary were like, bought tickets immediately, because it was, and I can see, going back to Reese's enthusiasm about the live thing, like when they're talking about those early days of the league and doing the live shows, and like how different that must be to television in terms of the energy of that room, and when you're getting those instant laughs from people who are there in front of you, it must be for certain people like a real buzz.
Completely. Because they make these things and they send them out there, and then people like us sit here and dissect them and talk about how ham-fisted the writing was with certain episodes, and there's nothing you can do about that then, apart from basically do what Reese does, which is, no, this stuff's great.
Yeah,
it is who it is the kids that are wrong.
Yeah,
and we are wrong. Like we
we got no right to. Yeah, it's a bit like the thing, and again, there's sort of a disconnect between like the live form and broadcast form, between the performing and the response that you get, and it's like doing live stream gigs where it's such a weird thing when you're playing a song, you finish a song, and normally there'd be applause at that point, and there's like a natural rapport that happens, but it's just silence, and it's really awkward.
Apart from keeping an eye on your comments bar.
Keeping an eye on the comments. But it's very different. Because you don't, like when you're performing live in a venue, you don't get comments. You just get a general noise.
I mean, you do get some comments.
Yeah, you filter them out.
Or respond.
Yeah, it's weird. But I can see for sure why you'd, be, whether you prefer that medium or, just certainly get excited about it.
Yeah.
I think, and when you think about like Deadline, getting a bit of that in terms of I guess it's the fear and nervous energy of doing something live is probably totally different from, just working on set.
Well, I think you can kind of see Reese quite enjoys working on set, because I guess you get to kind of do a little bit of that where there are people watching, and you kind of get some energy there, I guess, from the people that are kind of watching your performance. And he seems quite silly sometimes on some of the on-set moments. There's the bit when they're doing Mulberry Close, and they're talking about the sign. My God, we called it Mulberry Close, and it's there, and it's a prop.
Yeah,
we called it that. We made that happen.
This isn't actually Mulberry Close. Yeah. I love the popcorn. That's such a great prop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The whole thing is like
tucking the tail underneath.
People are going to be more upset about this than anyone dying. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, I think he seems... There's loads of moments where... And the responses, or the things that have been said by other actors and production crew about how, obviously they're incredible writers, but they're also just great people, and you really get that sense that they're really fun to work with as well in general. And yeah, people just love being on set with them. Apart from in the trolley, because it's where they say in the trolley problem, normally we're telling stories with all the other actors and there's lots going on, but then it's just Steve and Reese, is right?
Yeah.
Just not saying anything.
No energy there at all, because it's just the two of them, and they've just...
And even the fight is slow motion.
Yeah. I like the... talking about them being silly on set, the corpsing that was going on the subway episode.
Yes.
Yeah. Shakespeare. William Shakespeare.
Yeah. It's so good.
The lady doth protest too much. William Shakespeare.
Yeah. I love that. Mark Bonner. Just hearing him say, he was laughing. He was behind the camera laughing, but then he had to enter the shot. Yeah, it just reminded me of that Reese and the car share thing where he's doing Here Comes the Hot Stepper.
Here comes the Hot Stepper.
Miracle dance flap. And he, just obviously gets a kick out of making people laugh.
Yeah.
And making people laugh in really annoying, inappropriate contexts as well.
Oh, as an aside on that, actually, the Miracle, the Hot Stepper one, Sean Gibson, who's in the Peter Kay thing, what was it called? Car Share. She was in League of Gentlemen. In the League of Gentlemen episode I was watching last night. I was like, hang on a minute, is that Yeah, it is. So she's been working with Reese for a long time. It was one of the sketches with the dad, the gangster dad. I've forgotten what his name is. But yeah, she's a girlfriend that the son's brought home. She sat there awkwardly while he's telling the virtues of his son.
Oh, I didn't realise that.
Yeah. So yeah, long-time collaborator.
Yeah. Yeah, so we go to Sardines. After, we've talked about that.
So Sardines gets quite a big kind of thing, doesn't it? Because it was the first one. Catherine Parkinson is kind of come back to quite a lot, and I guess because she was brought back again for the end episode, and they gave that shot of plodding on versus the beginning when she comes in with the carbolic soap versus just tearing it off the wall.
Yeah.
In plodding on. And Ophelia Lovibond gets a lot of chat.
Yeah, she spoke a lot, didn't she?
She did.
Yeah. Which was... And what I loved about her is she's just talking like a massive fan of the show. And she's obviously watched...
She wasn't a fan of the show when she agreed to do that. There was no show.
No.
And she's kind of watched it then grow and grow and grow and grow. Having been there right at the ground floor. Yeah.
Exactly. I suppose there was the League and there was Psychoville. So there's... Yeah. You know who you're working with.
Yeah. But not on this.
Not on this. And she... Yeah, has clearly watched it. Apart from not realising there's a hair in every episode. But yeah, and it was really good hearing about the wardrobe sort of situation.
These boobs in a box.
Boobs in a box. Yeah. And I think confirmation of that being the first episode on purpose, and it being a really was it Adam Tandy talking about that, or David Kerr maybe? And did David Kerr direct all of the episodes in series 1?
I think so.
Yeah, because he was Psychoville.
Yes.
And so obviously they're continuing to work with him. It was interesting, like they had the 3rd series of Psychoville ready to go, and they talked about being asked, okay, what's next then? He's like, oh, not a 3rd series of Psychoville. Like Tales of the Unexpected kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, it was good to hear David Kerr had some interesting insights. And then the theme tune, the origin of the theme tune.
How long did he spend on it? He did it in 1 minute 43. 1 minute 43 seconds he put that together in, because they had something. I didn't really like it, so he threw something else together.
I wonder how long they've been working on the other thing.
So that's perfect.
Yeah.
I like
that'll have to do. That's absolutely perfect.
I like that it took Christian Henson a few series to decide that it was the best television he was ever going to work on.
Yeah. And then he took it a bit more seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. I was hearing him talk about Deadline and doing the music live for that. I could feel my heart going when he was talking about that. It's like, that's an insane thing to do.
100%.
And to put yourself forward for that. It's not even that's been asked of you, but like the integrity of your, like you think, okay, no, this whole thing needs to be live and I want to be part of that.
I mean, he said that a certain amount of pressure was taken off by the fact that it was supposed to go wrong. And if it went wrong in that bit, then it's okay, because it's going to go wrong anyway. But also,
whatever you need to tell yourself to get through that. Yeah, fine.
But in the, I think it's in the Insider's Guide, they kind of alludes to the fact they didn't really have a choice because of the way it plays out. You can't rely on those musical stings and things to happen at the right time because you're doing it live. You kind of, unless you're doing weird stuff with triggers where you've got a whole bunch of stuff
you'd still be needing to trigger samples, but then
turn that one off because we've run slightly over on that. You kind of you can get yourself into trouble very quickly. So I guess the easier option is because I remember him talking about sort of running the cello on one hand and he's got keyboard on the other one. It's just madness. Yeah. Absolute
and if you've got the skill and the confidence, by all means. Who am I to stand in your way, Christian? Don't worry. It's great. Yeah. Oh yeah, and the Doll Boy. Tom and Jerry. That was the...
Oh yeah.
Because was that something... Because they were saying that the Tales of the Unexpected idea came from an episode of Psychoville, which was set in one room.
Yeah.
And then, they also had an idea for this Doll Boy, and seeing somebody who doesn't have any purpose to their days because they're, don't have a job, like just thinking about, the thought processes that go on there and like this descent into, days blurring into.
It was interesting hearing that they've got those sort of notebooks full of stuff. And sometimes there's an idea that starts and doesn't really go anywhere and then it crosses over into something else. And another idea they've got kind of cross-pollinates with that one. They had that little chat with Nick Mohammed, didn't they? And he got to cross off I think we made that one. Oh, okay, right. That became that. I thought the 12 Days of Christine got a bit of a chunk, didn't it?
Yeah.
Understandably. And I think that's always going to be my favorite episode. I don't think anything's going to top it. And I know it's kind of the obvious favorite, but even them just talking about it.
Well, it gave me goosebumps just hearing Adam Tandy talk about when he first read the script, and he's like, "Oh my God, this is an extraordinary script," and like the knowledge in that moment, even then, just reading it was like, "This is a remarkable half an hour of television.
Even though you know the people you're working with, and you've got these people that are talking about how what amazing writers they are. Not just even amazing writers, though. Like I really thought when they were talking about Mulberry Close, and Steve was talking about how you have to play with that camera angle, and you kind of force all of this stuff by playing with angles and perspective and things like that. Proper nerdy. Yeah. Like they're not just writers, they're also like cinematographers. They are quite impressive.
Yeah.
But yeah, the stuff about the 12 days, people just effusive with, amazing.
Yeah.
And the thing is that people were surprised by how good that was, even though they knew who they were working with. Adam Tandy had been working with these guys on a fair few of these episodes by this point. Like, he knows what he's working with. And for him still to go, wow, this is extraordinary, even for you guys.
Yeah. And I guess, would it be the first one that was completely, I mean, it's not comedy, horror. It has comedic moments and it has horror moments, but it's ultimately, there's something else, like it's transcendent, I think, in some ways. So it goes against what they would be expecting. And I think that's why I think you can set it apart from the rest of Inside Number 9 in some ways, and just say, okay, it's a given that 12 Days of Christine is the episode.
Yeah, I guess I'm just looking through the stuff that came before it. It doesn't really have that darkness in the same way, does it? It's a dark story in that you find out it's actually about someone dying, but it's not got a dark undercurrent. It's actually quite joyful in some ways.
Yeah.
I say that with a very big caveat.
Well, yeah, because it's not dark for the sake of being dark. It's like a really, as Reese says in the documentary, he's like, this is about this fear that everyone has of losing someone really close to them. And I think that is really what it is about the episode that really gets me and gets people is that human, that the ability to just really evoke those human emotions. And like it keys into an understanding of humanity that is present in everything that they do. I think it's the weird thing about when you look at the League, even, and how absurd it is and how extreme it is. It's like
still talking about humans and the human
condition. They can do that.
And
that's really in their work. And they obviously do it normally with horror horror dark comedy as the vehicle. But I think that one just is pure, really. Yeah. Then there's a bit about hurry up and wait, and going back into the Notebook thing. And how they just store these ideas. And it's like that. There's something in that. Is there a whole episode in that, or is it just something? And it's my birthday. I'm having a glass of champagne, which actually happened to them.
I can't believe it. It still baffles me that even though they're filming in these real places, that you do just set up a green room in someone's house, in their living room, and go, do you mind if we just sort of sit here while we wait for our calls? Is that all right with you? Yeah, it's my birthday.
Yeah.
Having a glass of champagne.
And I'm guessing that normally people are not there in the places, or at least in the same room. And it's like you can just imagine them just sat in the corner. Nobody's noticed that they're there. And then suddenly, there's someone there. Do you mind if I have a glass of champagne? It's my birthday. No offer to them whether they want a glass of champagne.
No, just letting you know. Yeah. I am. I do very much want the 6 mini postcards for each series. I want 9 framed sets of postcards.
Can you get hold of those? Or
I
is
don't
that
know.
like something just they had?
I think they just have it.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'd put them. I mean, just sort of around my dining room.
Yeah.
A whole wall of
You'd find somewhere.
954 little postcards
It'd be amazing.
dotted around the house, up the
Yeah.
stairs.
Yeah. Get rid of all the family photos.
Who needs family photos? I've got League of Gentlemen, not League of Gentlemen, Inside Number 9 posters.
Yeah.
It was funny hearing them talk about. I've known that they do it, but the death stuff in the office.
Oh yeah.
The fake deaths in the office. And that Reese at some point wants to put together a full Hannibal Lecter flayed guy with a flag.
He's going to have to come in the night before though to.
I like the fact that the amount of effort that was put into doing the sort of the sketches of those.
Yeah.
That were sort of live appearing as he was talking about it.
Yeah, I was trying to work out whether that, because when they were at Graham Humphrey's,
I think that was him. I think he must have done
one of those
for him.
one of the Hannibal images there. Yeah,
Graham,
so
we're thinking that we're quite.
Can you design the perfect death
prank?
Yeah. Yeah, wonder how much that cost. Yeah, and the peacock feathers.
Oh yeah. Ooh,
in what episode is that in?
That's don't. It's not happening. It's not happening.
Parascovidicotriophobia.
Yeah, that one. What does the costume guy? How does he pronounce it?
I don't know.
It was. I didn't really twig what it was, but Steve was quite amused by how he said it.
I think he said it moderately okay, but it was just in a French accent that. Yeah,
Steve just finds the French accent funny.
I don't know. Yeah.
Eve. Yes.
Yeah.
I like these little things from was that Reese's stepdad or dad? I can't remember. It was just something that he said once.
Wouldn't allow peacock feathers in his.
Wouldn't allow him in the house. And that.
And came home from the pub one night and burnt some.
Yeah.
Which I was trying to figure out, is that like a traumatic memory, or is that like so is that episode kind of a bit of a cathartic release of something that's deeply buried in him? Yeah.
Oh, I have to make an admission here that there was a little bit in here about Deadline where they were talking about Deadline and the sound cut out, and I thought something had gone wrong with my computer. And I paused it and checked, and then realised, oh no, wait! Can't believe I've been gotten by
even in this. Yeah, and that, I mean, it's funny because hearing Mark Gatiss say that even though he knew what was going on, he was still like, "Is it going wrong?"
That's the thing, though. Like, you get to like this weird meta thing of, is it? Can it go wrong? What does going wrong look like when it's meant to go wrong? Can the going wrong go wrong? Yeah, the going wrong can go wrong.
The going wrong can go wrong. Yeah.
I think there was a line near the end of it that I think summed it up. It was I can't remember which actor it was. It said, I don't know if they know how good they are.
Mm.
And you kind of got that sense all the way through this, that they have a lot of fun with it. They enjoy writing together. These are their 55 films.
Yeah.
Little films.
Yeah, and I love that way of framing it as well. And that just shows how
mad
brilliant the project has been, yeah.
And the turnarounds on these things where it is 2 or 3 days on each thing. And you strung 3 of those together to a feature-length film. You don't put feature-length films together in 6 days, 9 days.
No, exactly.
That's mad.
Yeah, yeah. And when they talk about the rhythm, like one of the things they're going to miss is the fact that every year for 10 years they've had this sort of rhythm to their year that has involved writing and filming and producing these and then releasing them. And yeah, that must take up so much of your both time and energy and just everything, really, like all of your resources. And yeah, I can imagine because they say, they've still got the stage show to go, and Reese is thinking maybe that's the moment that the loss will be felt when that finishes for him. But there's obviously a lot of people who've been involved in the TV show that that's why they're all sad. It's interesting hearing them talk about, like, that's probably why everyone was crying when we finished. And and there's something about, that end of Plodding On when is the final line that they said, like, maybe there's another option or a third option or something, which is setting up the buses bit at the end. But there's something, I imagine being in that environment, hearing that final bit, because you get it even watching that. It was like, oh, I bet this is a huge loss. It must feel really, you were doing the thing. I mean, and then you stopped doing the thing.
I know how I feel at the end of every academic year. Last day of the year, and you drive away from the last day, and you're like, I have put so much into every day, and it's just kind of done.
Yeah.
And even on a small scale, like whenever I've been involved in projects with stuff like, maybe it's been theatre shows where I've done a week's run, and you do every night for a week, and then you finish that and you're like, that's done. That's really weird, because tomorrow I'm not going to do that, because it takes up so much energy. You pull yourself into it and you give it everything, and then it's done. All those, and then all of the rehearsals, all the preparation, all of that stuff that's going on is just finished.
You were doing that thing, and now you're not doing that thing. Yeah, and with performance stuff like that as well, there's a special energy to that. And when you're in a team, and I guess like with the academic year, like you reach an end point with students who you're never going to see again, likely, like loads of them. And it's the same at the end of a project where, we might work together again, but in all likelihood, the majority of these people who've been part of this, I'm probably not going to work with again. And unless something is organised, I'm unlikely to see them again. And that's a really hard thing to kind of get your head around.
Especially when in the moment, it's like, oh, we'll do stuff like this again.
Yeah,
we'll definitely, we'll keep in touch. We'll do these things again with you. No,
we'll meet up every week. Yeah.
We'll record an episode of the podcast every week.
Look, to be fair, I think we've done pretty well.
We've done all right, yeah.
Yeah, but it is like that. And it's not that those intentions are false or fake.
No.
Because you absolutely 100% mean it in the moment, but
you're caught up in the energy, though, aren't you? You're caught up in that massive collaborative energy of just
And I have discovered that saying, because I have tried it, saying we're probably never going to see each other again. I'm not going to make any promises I can't keep. It doesn't actually serve the moment. No. So even if even if everyone knows that's true, because that's the thing. I just tried it once.
You don't say it. You do.
Yeah, we all know that's true, but it doesn't. It's one of those things that as humans,
just sort of shoot it down.
Say it. Yeah.
No, let's not make promises we can't keep. Come on. This serves no one.
We should do this again. No, we shouldn't. We won't, even if we should. Yeah.
There was one thing I thought was quite funny was when they said Reese, these episodes inspired by Reese, who's really interested in magic and seances, and then there's the ones with Steve because he's interested in crosswords. So that's what they've distilled Steve's interest down
Yeah,
to.
Reese is into these really amazing, like mysterious things. Steve is into
Cryptic crosswords.
puzzles.
Puzzles. Yeah.
Yeah, Devil of Christmas got a little special mention.
It did.
Happy to hear that.
Partly because of the ridiculous effort that they went to source
the actual cameras from
the actual cameras.
70s.
Yeah, because Reese thought it was basically going to be the equivalent of putting a sepia tone over it on an iPhone
Instagram
camera.
filter. Yeah.
No, we're going to get the actual stuff.
And again, it's like the effort. It's just incredible. Like it's
For
authentic.
a half-hour television.
For just a half
You don't
an hour.
have to do that.
As part of a 6-episode series. Yeah, it's mad. The other thing was they were going to call it Inside Number 5.
Yeah.
They were just looking, they thought, a number. Which is, it's always weird to hear those sorts of stories later on, because it's like...
It is, but also, I can only imagine that calling it Inside Number 9, I imagine gave a lot of people the wrong impression of what this was going to be.
The political...
It sounds like what's going on next door to number 10 is what it sounds like. That's the weird thing about going for 9, is that there is a number 10 and it is incredibly significant, and you've set this up as potentially listening in on that. And it's nothing to do with it at all.
We've talked about this before, I think, and I know lots of people who that was their expectation. This
is mine.
Yeah, hearing through the wall of the Prime Minister's house.
This is like a Michael Spicer.
Yeah,
just sat next door feeding the feeding the comms team.
Yeah. So number 5 might have been less likely, but then you wouldn't have once removed, because what's a 5 if you flip it upside down?
An S. Sort of. House number S doesn't really work.
House number S. No. Yeah. Or behind closed doors was the other option. Was that written in Steve's book?
I think so.
Yeah.
Thing is, I think behind closed doors is almost a bit too obvious.
Too obvious. Too limiting. Because it's not.
Yeah, because sometimes it's not about the door, is it? Sometimes it's like car number 9.
No, and by using the word door, you're limiting number 9 to a door. Or the episodes to a door.
Yes.
Rather than use a footballer.
Yes, you can use a footballer.
Do other things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was good to hear Louise Hooper appeared throughout the documentary as because I think Mr. King was her first directing outing in Inside Number 9. So yeah, it was great to hear them talk about that one. Obviously, I don't think there was anything haven't talked about before that they revealed or anything. But
no, sure. I think I read something about that one. The whole classroom thing started off as something a little bit different, and it was some sort of chemistry thing, and then it morphed into being a Wicker Man kind of scenario instead.
Oh, right.
Because it didn't work. Whatever they were going for, there was a giant hole and it didn't quite work or something, and so it ended up morphing into this Wicker Man homage. And they kind of spoke about the fact that there was this sort of question hanging over of when Wicker Man would make an appearance.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's seminal. It's
Yeah, and in such an overt way. Because, I mean, we referred to the Wicker Man in a bunch of episodes in terms of some of the underlying influences on them or, kind of parallels. But, to have an actual Wicker Man episode in such an overt way. Yeah, it's great. And it's nice that they were able to pay homage to those explicitly important things to them.
It amazes me that there is this massive library of films of varying quality that kind of lurk beneath the surface of the films that we're all aware of, that basically make up Reese's favourite horror films.
Yeah.
Because some of them look horrific.
Yeah, that was great when they were talking to Graham Humphreys.
Yeah.
Sort of showing some of the clips from like Theatre of Blood, I think was the one that they mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to see it's just like black comedy horror that is obviously so influential. But
the over the top gore.
Absolutely over the top. Yeah, kind of then they cut to the harrowing and his guitar playing character in that is like this absurd but sinister, darkly sinister character that is going to do harm.
But that's the thing, is if you get that balance right and you manage to find those characters where the kind of stupidity and the slapstick contributes to how sinister they are, is quite amazing.
Yeah.
Because that can go one of two ways. It can be, okay, you've ruined that now. That's ridiculous. Or you can be, God, that's unnerving.
Yeah. You're right. It's such a fine line, because you see and you see it with a lot of modern
American Psycho, when Patrick Bateman's talking about Huey Lewis and the News, that could be absurd, but it's actually terrifying because he's just unhinged, and that is a ridiculously silly kind of narrative rant about Huey and Lewis and the News as he's getting ready to chop someone into pieces.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
And I think it becomes more terrifying than if they were just talking about how they're going to methodically chop you into pieces. A bit in like, I guess, like A Clockwork Orange and, these things where you're in the hands of someone who is completely unpredictable and just
that's the thing, isn't it? It's the
unhinged.
unpredictable, unhinged, unpredictable. Yeah,
sort of playing like playful in their in the way that they are doing what they're doing and going about it. And
I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't feel like the character in The Harrowing is quite as awful as that. And there is a certain amount of silliness there in his character because he's obviously a bit subservient to his wife. She's kind of the in control one and he's a bit silly. But still, it happening in that scenario.
Yeah, and I think it's the absurdity part, and when the unpredictability is linked to the fact that you can't reason your way out of the situation because they're operating at a different level.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
their logic to what they're doing. Yeah, you're not able to access it, and so there's no way to escape it. And that's what you see. Yeah, when you've got him like playing these songs, it's like,
you're playing Lord of the Dance.
I don't know. Yeah, like your motives are alien to my ability to comprehend what is going on and how I could possibly survive. Whereas, there's some ridiculous horror films that I've started watching over the past few years that get that kind of wrong, and I'm not sure what it is that they get wrong, but it's almost like they see the extremity, like the villain needs to have just be an extreme version of something and just be stupid for the sake of it. But they miss all the nuance and the subtlety that has to come along with it. It's difficult to describe, but Stephen Rees,
you somehow have to get it. You somehow have to get it in character, yet wildly out of character and unpredictable at the same time. Yeah. It's what you'd expect of them, but also the last thing you would expect all at once.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't know how you write that.
Don't know. Not my job.
Wouldn't wish it on anyone.
wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Yeah. Yeah. And then we kind of, I guess we can draw this to a close. Cobbled On is the next thing that they're doing.
Cobbled on. Yeah. Ballet on Ice.
Ballet on Ice.
Winkle.
Yes. Yes. And Steve's dinner is ready at the end.
Yeah.
So, yeah. No, it was a lovely. I'm glad they had an hour for it as well.
It's amazing what they managed to do in an hour, isn't it? If only they had afforded themselves that much time with the rest of these episodes.
Oh, I don't think I could have coped with an hour.
I don't think I've got to put over an hour aside each week to try and. I don't think this podcast happens if that had been the case.
No, I don't.
I'm going to put it out there.
Yeah. So thanks, guys, for
cheers, guys.
Even though you did manage to pack in a lot, I think it was just on the limit of what we were able to cope with.
Well, to be honest, it probably would have diluted it because I think they were quite efficient, really.
Yeah, I think so.
We've got content for half an hour. Let's make a half-hour program. Let's not beat about the bush.
Yeah. Yeah. Develop everything. And that's all they needed. Yeah. It's just...
every minute counts.
Absolutely. Lessons in storytelling and atmosphere setting. I think people should study. They will be studying these episodes for many years to come if we're afforded that luxury by the powers that be.
If not, they could still allowed to do it. Like no one's.
Well,
we've done this completely of our own volition.
Yeah, but no, I mean, if the powers that be let humanity survive on the planet beyond a short period of time. Yeah.
That all got quite existential quite quickly.
Yeah. And so to David Lynch.
Lynch pivot.
Really sad.
It was.
I think it was the realization that, because I've always had this hope that there's another project, and I always look forward to the next thing from David Lynch. And so the realization.
What do you think that next project would be?
Well, there had been talk.
Was it Twin Peaks?
There had been talk of like Wisteria, which was going to be a similar thing to Twin Peaks / Mulholland Drive, and a series again.
That's interesting because I've always thought that Desperate Housewives, apart from the obvious Carl McLachlan link, was like very accessible David Lynch. It had that kind of vibe to it. And that was set on Wisteria Lane.
And I think, and that's true of, because you sort of his love-hate relationship with like Hollywood and, a lot of that stuff. His projects came out of both a love and an ability to see the dark stuff hiding just beneath the surface, and to kind of tease that out. But yeah, I don't have. I feel like out of my depth if I tried to talk about David Lynch in any kind of.
This is not. I don't think anyone is qualified to really talk about David Lynch in any kind of coherent way.
No, and that's what I love. Again, is just the leaving everything open to interpretation. It's like such a risky thing to do when it comes to making fans of mainstream audiences, and also standing by work when it gets absolutely slammed when it first comes out, which so much of it did. And then it's like, just be patient, and in a few years those critics, I mean, Mark Kermode with Blue Velvet is a good example of that. I think he talks about how he absolutely hated it when he first saw it, and then years later he apologized to him and said it's like one of the best films ever made. And it's like that's the effect. But yeah, in terms of I was trying to think of some of our experiences.
So you introduced me to Twin Peaks.
I remember
in that first year of university. Sitting in your room watching those on your tiny little laptop screen. That was my introduction to David Lynch. And it was just utterly bizarre. Like everything about it, the lady talking to a log, all of those things. Like it seems like a pretty straight up. It could be a straight up drama series, but then you've just got these things going on, and then suddenly it pivots into this supernatural thing.
Yeah,
it was, not like nothing you'd ever seen before at all. It's weird because I remember my mum had spoken about Twin Peaks previously. I just had remembered her saying that's something she had enjoyed watching when it first aired, but I had never gone near it until watching it on your 12-inch ProBook screen.
Yeah,
probably not giving it the respect it deserved.
Oh man, no, I loved, because I watched it so many times. Just like anyone, I was like, oh yeah, Steve, you've never seen it, okay,
let's watch Twin Peaks.
Right, we're watching it. But what was the funny thing at that time was I didn't realise there was a second series, so I was just watching the first series over and over and over. And like, in my naivety, I suppose, I was satisfied with it. Like, I thought, yeah, that's enough, and not to, I'm going to give a spoiler here for the end of series 1. It's been out long enough for people to have watched it.
I think,
yeah, like Agent Cooper gets shot and you don't know how he is at the end of the episode. But I was like, it's a perfect ending. I'm satisfied. We haven't found out who the killer of Laura Palmer is. The main guy's just been potentially killed. And I was
done.
Wrap.
That's a wrap.
I didn't realise there was a second series, and I didn't go looking for it. And I suppose it was.
I think I remember you. Did you get Fire Walk with Me through on Love Film?
Yes. When
Love Film was sending out discs. I think I remember watching that.
We watched that before series 2.
Yeah. Yeah, which is right, I think. You're supposed to, aren't you? Because that's all the stuff leading up to. No,
I think you could ideally do with watching series 2.
Oh, because you find
out
about
who the killer
Bob.
Is. Yeah. Yeah. So watch. Yeah, series 1, series 2, Firewalk with Me, The Return.
Well, the return was amazing because you had to watch it week by week.
Yeah.
And it wasn't all released at once for a quick just binge them all. You had to wait. It was like watching concurrent TV viewing again when everyone was kind of at the same time watching it, waiting for the next one. Was it series 3 of that one? Was it episode 3, sorry? Which was or 7?
What, the mental one?
Which episode was it that was the absolute mental one?
Episode 8. Yeah.
Was it 8?
With the atomic bomb.
I remember watching that episode, and I think I remember messaging you that once the tall man appeared, I actually let out a cheer because I was able to actually recognize something that was happening.
Yeah.
Because I was just watching this absolute mayhem unfold in front of me. Yeah, at the same time, I think that kind of episode sums up a lot of David Lynch, was that I didn't know what the hell was going on, but I was really captivated by it.
Mm.
It's like there's something coming here. Something really big and worthwhile is coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it did.
And it wasn't ever what you expected. One of the things I love about him is that he never cared about tying up loose narrative ends, because it wasn't about that for him. It was about the feeling of a place or a person, and like, you know, actually capturing the stuff in between, like the importance of electricity and fire and all of these things that are sort of definable but undefinable. Just going into the energy of it.
If you're making series about people's lives, and it's very rare that lives tie up. Really,
exactly, yeah.
Because you exist, and stuff happens, and stuff goes off on tangents, and you start off on little paths, and you make relationships that make little connections, and whose life actually comes around at the end and goes, right, glad all that's tied off, and there's nothing kind of hanging there, or there. Time for this to end. Of course it doesn't. The situations don't play out like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think in some ways we use TV and film as a proxy for that, in looking for things that do have those nice, neat tie-up bows, so that you don't have to live fully in the thing of nothing ever gets tied up. So you can. No,
I remember reading something a long time ago. It was in the context of teaching and working with young people, and the fact that young people who I guess this is probably slightly different now, really, but at that time sitcoms were massive, and people were kind of brought up with this idea of life resolves itself in little 20-minute chunks, and if it doesn't, it's not worth dealing with. Like, it's done. We've managed to wrap it all together, and nothing else to worry about. That's done. And you kind of damage people's resilience and ability to cope by presenting this idea that things always resolve, because they don't. And David Lynch will stick a dagger through the heart of that idea that things will always resolve by just giving you, depending on what you're watching, an hour or an hour and a half or 2 hours of utter chaos that has no real resolution at the end of it.
And it gives you the gift of being able to just think and talk and, you know, speculate about things for hours and hours and hours and years. And there's great joy in that. And, you know, some of my favourite podcasts are Twin Peaks related podcasts, where people are still talking about fresh things related to the show that are just really interesting to listen to. And they're neither correct or incorrect. Like, one of my favourite videos is Angelo Badalamenti, who wrote the music for Twin Peaks and for a bunch of other projects. Talking about Laura's theme and how that came together. I'll post a link. You might have seen it, but I'll post a link to that, because it is one of the just most fantastic things that you see, because they're riffing off each other and talking about, I wanted the sound of a dark wood, and then he plays this thing, and then there's this sad girl who goes into the wood, and then I start playing this, and it's just, it's so good. Anyway, I think we should probably sort of wrap up. Well, thanks. It's nice to get to talk about this. Always. And we will do a David Lynch night soon. Lovely. Well, we will get on to series, where are we? Series 6.
6.
Of the script books next. So we'll be flicking through the scripts of Series 6. Starting
with
Wuthering Heist.
And in mid-February late February we'll have a Stage Fright review. Although, do we hold off on a Stage Fright
need to be careful
until the
about
run
this.
is finished? Do we wait until the run is finished? Maybe we record it not long after we see it, because it's fresh in minds. But then it doesn't go out until the run has completed.
I think that's
might be a sensible thing to do,
because it's unfair, isn't it? Otherwise,
Yes.
And
Let's do that.
dangerous. Yeah.
Dangerous.
It's dangerous.
They'll hate us.
Yeah. Well, I don't want anyone to be tempted, because I could imagine myself being tempted to listen to something and then it ruins it.
You don't want to be the snake in the Garden of Eden with his apple.
I don't want to be that guy. No. Don't want to be that guy. Cool. Yes, if you've got anything you want to share with us, do email us, quietnightinsideknow9@gmail.com, or get in touch via Blue Sky, which already we've become rubbish at checking. But we're on there at AQNIN9. And if you want to be like Jennifer Lee and drop us a donation to keep the hosting costs covered, then we're very, very grateful, and you can do that through our PayPal Me link, which I will put in the description show notes. Lovely. All right. Well, yes, see you in a week or so. Bye-bye.
So long.
So long.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
This is the keyboard that all the major themes were created for Twin Peaks. It's an old Fender Rhodes and kind of beat up. And David would sit right over here, right to the right of me, and we would put a little cassette just about over here on this keyboard, just keep it in record and just keep it playing. David would sit here and I'd say, well, what do you see, David? What is, just talk to me. And David would say, okay, Angelo, we're in a dark woods now. And there's a soft wind blowing through some sycamore trees. And there's a moon out, and there's some animal sounds in the background. And you can hear the hoot of an owl. And you're in the dark woods, just get me into that beautiful darkness with the soft wind. And I started playing. And David would say, Angelo, that's great. I love that. That's a good mood. But can you play it slower? And I'd say, slower, David? Okay. And I'd go. He says, that's it. That's a good tempo. Just keep it going slow like that. Just keep that going for a while. And in David's mind, you can just see that he was visualizing the description that he envisioned. Then he would say, okay, Angelo, now we got to make a change, because from behind a tree in the back of the woods, there's this very lonely girl. Her name is Laura Palmer, and it's very sad, but get something that matches her. And I just segued into this. And he'd say, well, that's it. It's very beautiful. I could see her. And she's walking towards the camera, and she's coming closer. Just keep building it. Just keep building it. And she's getting close. Now reach some kind of climax. And I would go, and he said, oh, that's it. Oh, that's so beautiful. Angelo, oh, that's tearing my heart out. I love that. Just keep that going. Now she's starting to leave. So fall down. Keep falling. Keep falling. Keep falling. Now go back into the dark woods. That's it. Keep going. Just keep it going. Very quiet. quiet and mysterious. David got up, he gave me a big hug. He said, Angelo, that's Twin Peaks. I said, okay, David, I'll go home and I'll work on it. He said, Angelo, don't do a thing and don't change a signal note. I see Twin Peaks. And that's how it was done.